Hi all and welcome to another episode of the Tetra Travels. This week is part 2 of the Barcelona video. Originally I was going to do 3 parts to this, but I've actually reduced it to 2 as I realised I didn't have as much footage as I originally thought. But hopefully you enjoy it and you learn a bit about what Barcelona was like and how accessible it was. There's some really good trips out when I was there, and I really recommend going if you're a wheelchair user. It's definitely worth the trip. So easy to get around. Super warm, even in later months of the year. So yeah, I would really put it on your list of to-dos. On the third day, we started out by travelling to the Placa de Catalina. Please excuse my bad Spanish. This is one of the central squares in the city and leads on to La Rambla, the famous market street. It somewhat reminded me of Trafalgar Square in London. Obviously the weather was a bit better and it was nice and warm. As I said, this leads on to La Rambla, which is one of the most famous streets in the city and is a must-go place for tourists. The whole area is very busy, so as a wheelchair user it can be a bit difficult to get around. I'm used to living in London as a city, so it's not too bad for me. But if you're someone that doesn't like crowds, maybe it's not the best place to go. But I really enjoyed it. Everywhere was flat. The curbs were really easy to get up and down. There were sort of level curbs everywhere. So it was a really nice day out, and it was reasonably flat the whole walk that we did this day. As many other people probably claim, the La Rambla is actually very busy and touristy. It was very nice and flat, so that was a positive. However, people were saying be careful that you don't get sort of pickpocketed and things on this street. I wouldn't say it's the nicest road on the whole way, but it was very nice nonetheless. It also leads on to the famous food market, La Boqueria, which is just off the right hand side of La Rambla. This place is a place where you can get all sorts of random food, from fish to meat to sweets to nuts, fruit. It's all there, and it's an amazing place. You can get all the local delicacies and all the local products, so it's definitely well worth a visit and having an explore. We explored for about 3 or 4 hours and we didn't see everything, so I definitely recommend giving yourself enough time to try the different foods on offer. The other really nice thing is that if you talk to the shop owners, they're very willing to talk to you about the history of their products, if they speak English that is. So we had a good chat with a few of them who told us the in-depth sort of culture behind their sort of specific products and how they're made, which was really fascinating and really made us want to buy more and actually try certain foods more than others. The market does have a disabled toilet at the back, down a lift. It was perfectly clean, maybe just a bit simplistic and old, but perfectly usable. A top tip there is if you keep a receipt from the market, you can use the toilet free, otherwise you have to pay. After the market, we took a walk to the end of La Boqueria to the harbour. We were expecting to sort of finish there for the day and head back to the hotel, but we actually ended up finding a boat ride to go on, which was really interesting. I wouldn't say it was fully accessible, although it had a ramp up onto it. My manual chair had to be lifted on, so I don't think you could do it in an electric power chair. However, it was a really nice way to finish the day, going out and seeing Barcelona from the sea, and I definitely recommend it. Very relaxing and good fun. Some of the waves were a bit choppy, so I felt like I was going to fall out my chair at times if I didn't have my strap on. So maybe recommend having something to tie yourself in with. We then finished the day by walking down the coast to the nearest station that we could find, which was about 10-15 minute wheel away, but all again flat and easy to get around, so it wasn't too difficult, and it was a really nice sort of way to finish the day. Restaurants to eat at, and we found one near our hotel that was fantastic that I recommend. The food was gorgeous. Here we had some duck with some fruit. It was lovely. I'll put the link in the description, so I really recommend it. The next day we took a quick walk to the beach and explored the area. Some of us went for a swim. Me being in a wheelchair, it wasn't so easy. However, I gather in the summer months they do have help to get you in the sea with chairs on the beach to help you get into the sea. I'll put links to where that is, but I believe they finish in September, so you've got to be there in the peak season to take advantage of that. We only had a short beach trip as we'd actually booked a flamenco show at the Tableau de Carmen. This is located in the Pobla Español. Again, excuse my Spanish. This is a sort of town that was built for the 1929 World Fair, so it's like a fake mini city which tries to incorporate all the various architecture from the regions of Spain. It's like a sort of mini museum aimed at sort of keeping the cultural buildings of Spain alive. It was really fascinating walking around and seeing how different regions have their different architectures, and having a bit of fun with the wishing well. As you can see, I can't really throw very well, but eventually managed to get it in the wishing well, and hopefully things come true. There were sections in this small town that were extremely steep, so I definitely needed help. However, most of it was doable, but I wouldn't maybe recommend it if you're on your own in a wheelchair unless you're very, very strong. To get to the show itself, though, I would definitely say it's possible. The hill getting up to the actual place where the performance was nice and easy. But I just had to show you this ramp because it was so ridiculous. The steepness of it, the way it spiraled, and then led to a completely dead staircase, and then even this ramp, even more ridiculous. You'd never get up that. I just thought it was a bit hilarious. We then went on to the show, which I would definitely recommend. The entrance isn't the most easy to get into, but there is a disabled toilet inside and they do have a ramp, so definitely doable. And I'll leave you with a bit of footage from the show. The dancing was absolutely spectacular and absolutely well worth the price we paid. It also came with a really delicious meal of tapas, and it was just a really good cultural evening, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone visiting Barcelona, so I'll put the link into the description. After the incredible show, which I have to say is my favourite thing we did in Barcelona, we then took a walk past the Montjuic Palace back to the bus stop where we went back to the hotel. This is also where the magic fountain is, but it wasn't open during the time we went for renovations. I'll also add at this point that the hotel we stayed at, the Hotel Ilunion in Barcelona, was a really well set up and accessible hotel, so I'll also leave a link in the description below. I'd fully recommend it, and it was in a great location for getting around the city, by bus or by train. On our final full day in the city, we then took a walk around the Gothic area of Barcelona. This area is all small streets and is the oldest part of the city. It wasn't the easiest to get around, however it wasn't that difficult at all actually. Most of it was tiled, there wasn't too many hills, and there were ramps where it's needed. I would say that the only thing with this place was that a lot of the shops didn't have an entrance that was wheelchair accessible. However, there were plenty that did, and I would fully recommend a visit around the old architecture. If you look for it, there's also free tour guides around the area. So yeah, you can hopefully learn a bit about the area. There's also quite an interesting Jewish quarter within this area, where a lot of the main synagogues are in the city. However, when I say main synagogues, they are very small, because a lot of the synagogues were destroyed when the religion was banned some years ago, although it's not banned anymore, obviously. At the time, the biggest synagogues could only be smaller than the smallest church in Barcelona, which has obviously left some historically small synagogues in the city. Another place I would definitely recommend was a place called Cad's Chai. Unfortunately, it does have one step up into it, but then it has a ramp down once you're in. This is sort of a tea restaurant that has various teas from around the world, sort of basically anything you can think of it has. And they're very sort of educational about what teas do what, so you can ask them what you fancy. I think I had some kind of love tea, and my mum had some kind of Vietnamese tea. Both were delicious, and yeah, it was just a nice way to sort of spend an evening and relax, and yeah, have a nice cup of tea that I'd never tried before. As a herbal tea addict, I really enjoyed this place. I'll also show you a bit about the buses in Barcelona. They were really easy to get on and off, quite regular, and yeah, they had good ramps and good wheelchair spaces, so I'd definitely recommend it. But basically that was it for Barcelona. I had a lovely time, really recommend it from an access point of view, and yeah, I will love to go back at some point in the future. As a bonus, I thought I'd show you the vehicle they put us in when we got off the plane. This is one of those vehicles that retracts up and down, so it goes to the plane door on a lift system, and then you sit in it and it drives you to the airport. It's a bit like the sort of cars they put the baggage on, but yeah, I thought most people probably hadn't seen this part of the airport and how it's done, so hopefully it's a bit interesting for you. And if you'd like to see more, maybe I'll do a video in the future. That was all for this week. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'm actually off to Qatar now to go watch the quarterfinals and semi-finals of the World Cup, so I'll probably take you along for the ride a bit for that, and show you what Qatar's like. I'm a bit trepidatious about it, as yeah, I really don't know what the access is going to be like. Not managed to get a taxi pre-booked because apparently they didn't do that. So we'll see what it's like when I get there, and yeah, I'll keep you updated. But yeah, look out for me next time, and so long, and see you soon.